the top 10 highest grossing movies of 2024 are all sequels.
Yeah.
Not a single original movie in there.
And I want us to try to just chit-chat and get to the bottom of why we think that is and why Hollywood seems to be going that direction.
Yeah, it's a tough decision. I think I know why Hollywood is going that direction, because it's guaranteed money.
If that's what people show up for, and we as the audience don't buy tickets to see the original concepts, then they're not going to have any confidence in doing it. I think personally, and I'd be curious to hear what you think about this, but I do think that that superhero movie culture has had something to do with this.
Welcome to Backseat Directing,
Where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew
and Aaron.
We put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
In this episode, we're discussing whether or not Hollywood is killing original movies.
3, 2, 1, action.
This episode's topic of discussion is brought up because the top 10 highest grossing movies of 2024 are all sequels.
Yeah.
Not a single original movie in there.
And we've talked about this before on the show, the concept of sequels and remakes taking over Hollywood. And it's either, I think it's one of three things. They'll either make a sequel, a remake, or like what would you call a legacy sequel, or, you know, renewing a franchise. Because something like Transformers 1, it's not a sequel to a Transformers movie, but it's
like a prequel.
Yeah. It's just an addition to an existing franchise in some form or another that is, you know, it's getting to be upwards of probably 75% of the stuff that is mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that there isn't like original stuff getting made, because smaller studios, especially when it comes to studios like A24 and Blumhouse, they make original stories. They're just not the stories and movies that really get pushed out to the public. They generally get less theaters, and they generally make less money. And a lot of that has to do with big studios and the marketing, having the funding, but also having only confidence in certain projects. And I want us to try to just chit-chat and get to the bottom of why we think that is and why Hollywood seems to be going that direction.
Yeah, it's a tough decision. I think I know why Hollywood is going that direction, because it's guaranteed money, right? If you already have a following with a story, characters, a franchise, then you're probably going to make more money than if it's an original idea, because you have to sell that original idea to a new audience that doesn't have any backing. Maybe you have a well-known director, or maybe you have actors and actresses that are attached to the project that bring excitement, but it seems like that doesn't outweigh the excitement of a pre-established IP. So I think that's why Hollywood is doing it, is because of the money.
Yeah, which in that sense, we as the audience have to accept some form of responsibility for Hollywood going in that direction, because they
Supply and demand
are basically meeting that basic economic principle that you're talking about. You know, if that's what people show up for, and we as the audience don't buy tickets to see the original concepts, then they're not going to have any confidence in doing it. But I think that there's also, like, when I'm talking about a reason, I'm thinking about a trend. You know, why has it gone more this way than it has in the past? Because there was sequels done in the past. I doubt Predator 2 made as much as Predator 1. I want to look that up, actually. Can you look that up for me in an extra tab? Mm-hmm. I want to know the box office return for Predator 2 versus Predator 1. Because my opinion, Predator 2 is a vastly inferior movie to the first Predator. So this would kind of set an early precedent for what we're talking about, the concept of audience confidence in sequels. I think that, in my opinion, I have an expectation for something that's really curved society in this direction, and I want to hear your opinion on that in just a second. So the first Predator is just called Predator, the second one's called Predator 2. Production budget went up nearly double, basically double. Their opening.
worldwide. Yep, it went down.
Yeah, it went down pretty significantly. Basically half of the
Yeah.
return, and
98.2 million versus 54.7.
even the opening was poor. The opening weekend dropped from 12 million to 8 million,
Yeah.
which you would think the
And the
opening
budget almost doubled.
you would expect the opening to be at least higher. You know, maybe audiences are excited from the first Predator. A bunch of people buy tickets. Audience reaction isn't favorable, and then the overall amount goes down. But in this case, even the opening was lower. So
Yeah.
to me, that kind of tells a story that maybe sequels didn't have as much juice as they do nowadays.
And that was only 3 years difference. But then if you wait 14 years difference between Alien versus Predator, which has even more power behind the name because it's included with Alien, that movie did much better in comparison with 172.5 million. Wonder how that affects inflation though.
Yeah, the first Predator came out in 1987, and the Terminator came out in 1984. So this was largely when Arnold Schwarzenegger was on the rise, and I think maybe something that hurt Predator 2 would have been the lack of Arnold Schwarzenegger in that movie, because they replaced him with a new lead, Danny Glover.
That'd probably do it.
Yeah, so that, I mean, there's obviously all these, you know, tertiary extenuating circumstances, different factors that are going to affect it as well. But in my opinion, just looking at the numbers, it looks like Hollywood's has a lot more confidence from the studio perspective and audience perspective in sequels and remakes, because they just see something that they recognize and they're willing to bet their money on it from both sides. Because we as audience members already know who the Hulk is, find his character interesting. So yeah, I can bet my $12, $10 movie theater ticket that I'll probably have a good time. And they see an original story, maybe like Challengers, and they think, well, I like Zendaya, but I don't know who Tashi Duncan, this made up fictional character, is. So maybe I'll just wait till it comes out on streaming.
I want to talk about the audience faith in original movies. But before I do that, I want to go over the list of the top 10 movies here.
Let's do it.
So everyone kind of is looking at the same thing that we are here. I'm actually going to pull it up on screen. So if you're watching this, you can kind of follow along. We have in the number 1 spot, Inside Out 2. I'm going to skip the numbers. Number 2 spot, we have Deadpool and Wolverine.
Woo!
Number 3 is Despicable Me 4.
Woo!
Number 4 is Dune Part 2.
Woo!
Number 5 is Godzilla versus Kong. Number 6 is Kung Fu Panda 4. Number 7, Venom: The Last Dance. 8, Beetlejuice. 9, Moana 2, which is crazy because it's only been out 1 week at this point. Not even 1 week.
One weekend.
And then wrapping up the top 10, we have Bad Boys, Ride or Die. And then after that, you can see here on the screen the 11 through 20.
It takes actually until number 15 to have a movie that's not part of an already existing universe. Number 15 is It Ends With Us, which is actually kind of a surprising success to me. The book was quite popular. I think it's a Colleen Hoover novel. But that movie came out pretty close to Deadpool and Wolverine, starring Blake Lively. And that movie did very well, $350 million. But there's 14 movies above it before you get to an original movie that's adapted from a book and not an existing universe.
Which is pretty insane, right? Like, I wonder what last year's was, if we can pull that up real quick.
Well, also, the first original idea is more than $1 billion less money than the number 1 option. It's $1.3 billion less.
Okay, so there's a few, right?
Well, Barbie, I mean, it's hard to argue Barbie. It does have animated movies predating it and a whole lot of Barbie-verse in terms of the dolls and shows.
It's kind of that in between.
Yeah.
It's an original movie idea, maybe, but it's not a new concept. It's an established IP. It's established franchise in a way.
I mean, it's
it.
it's the same kind of deal with Super Mario Bros. Because there's been but the only difference is there's been Super Mario Bros. Live action movies before.
Yeah. I still don't think Barbie and Super Mario Brothers count as an original movie idea. You know, I think the original movie ideas are the ones that we haven't heard of at all. That when we're going to the theaters, that's the first that we're really learning about these characters, this world, and all of that. We have Oppenheimer. That's the first one in the number 3 spot.
It's also an adapted screenplay as well. So it is original, but it's also based on the book and real life events.
Yes.
So it's
Um,
less original than something that's completely fictitious.
right. And then we have Guardians in 4, Fast 5 in 5, Spider-Verse in 6, Full River Red. I don't know what that is. Do
That's
you?
got to be from another country. That's got to be like a Chinese movie.
Okay. 8 is Wonka. 9 is The Wandering Earth 2. You heard of that?
Wandering Earth 2? I think that's another Chinese movie.
And
Because
then Mission Impossible wrapping up the top 10.
Full River Red is a Chinese movie, and then Wandering Earth.
So even last year there was a bunch that are sequels. What if we jump all the way back to like what 2000? Real quick. Yeah, these are a lot more original movies here, Andrew. In the 2000, here I'll pull it up on the screen so the viewers
Gladiator's
can
an
see
original
too.
movie. Castaway is an original movie. What Women Want is I believe an original, and then Dinosaur, original movie.
Dinosaur.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas is not an original movie.
Meet
Meet the Parents is an original movie with Ben Stiller.
What's the Perfect Storm?
I think it's based on a book, but
Okay.
I don't think it's like a sequel or anything like that.
X-Men, kind of in that same.
Yeah, comics predate it.
Yeah.
Animated TV show predates it.
What Lies Beneath? I don't know what that is.
I'm not familiar with that one either.
But yeah,
Scary Movie it's a parody, so
right.
That's another one of those difficult lines.
Yeah, so there's quite a few.
It's more so.
Quite a few original movies,
especially when you're looking at like
24
the top 20.
years ago.
When you look at the whole top 20 too, like Gone in 60 Seconds, that's an original movie too. Like
yeah. Okay, my scroller's not working. Here to go back. All right.
There's a definite trend. I think there's an evident trend.
Yeah. Before we continue, I want to say thank you so much for clicking on this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any of our future episodes. Thanks again for watching. And we'd love to hear you in the comments, too, of what you think about
this concept of movies being
right.
less and less original over time. I do want to see that year 2008, though.
2008?
Yeah.
Okay. Clicked on 2008 here.
This is going to tie into my reasoning here. Sequel. Kung Fu Panda's original, Hancock's original, Mamma Mia's original, Madagascar's a sequel, Quantum of Solace is a sequel, Iron Man's pre-existing universe, Wally's original, Chronicles of Narnia is again a sequel. Prince Caspian is a sequel, to be clear.
So
it's in the middle here.
There's definitely more variety in original content 10, 15, 20 years ago, but it still seems like the sequels and pre-established IP is what kind of runs the box office.
I think personally, and I'd be curious to hear what you think about this, but I do think that that superhero movie culture has had something to do with this. Because that's why I wanted to look at 2008, because that's with the establishment of the MCU. But even prior to that, you've got existing superhero projects, X-Men movies performing well, Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies performing well, the Dark Knight movies and previous Batman iterations. I think that the pre-existing world of those characters drawing in comic book fans, and then even big IPs like Star Wars, when in the 2000s they brought Star Wars back with Phantom Menace and then Attack of the Clones. So I think those big IP projects being sold through Marvel, DC, Lucasfilms, I think that's where studios started to realize, holy shit, this is so easy.
Yeah.
People will eat this up, and we don't even, in some instances, don't have to try that hard. Some instances they certainly did. In some instances, they really cooked. But especially as the MCU progressed, they realized how much people are comfortable with the familiar, which has been a very popular concept in terms of culture in general. But realizing that people can get so attached to these characters like Iron Man, like Captain America, that they would buy a ticket regardless of what they thought the movie was going to be like, regardless of themes, regardless of ratings, regardless of audience reaction.
It got to the point where you wouldn't even watch a trailer because you
would still buy a ticket. Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't want to see anything be spoiled or ruined, but you already know you're going.
You know you're going to go to an Avengers Infinity War. Don't even need to see any footage. That level of confidence is hard to buy. And a movie, a modern original concept movie like Challengers is harder to sell.
Yeah.
You have to put the effort in.
How do you compete against that?
So I do feel like they marketed Challengers really well, just didn't make an insane amount of money.
Right.
Beat its budget.
I want to go back what I kind of foreshadowed a little earlier about the faith of the viewer in original movies, because I feel like I'm guilty of this too.
Yeah,
Sometimes
you're guilty.
Shut up. Sometimes I
terrible.
don't want to go to the theater on a new movie if I'm not positive that I'm actually going to enjoy it. But with a established franchise or IP, I, as the viewer, have a lot more faith that I'm going to have a good time and that it's going to be worth my money. And I think maybe part of that is the fault of streaming, because I have access to so many movies. I think in twofold, it's the fault of streaming. One is that the movie is going to come out in streaming in less than a year, 3 months sometimes, you know? So I can just save my $10, $15 because I have to get food while I'm there, you know, to enjoy the movie to its fullest. So save that money and wait for a few months till it's on streaming. Now it's girl math free. And the second part is whenever I watch an original movie on streaming, I feel like it's a 50-50 flop on whether it's okay or bad, let alone great. You know, so I feel like sometimes when I'm clicking on these newer movies on streaming, it's like, oh, well, I'm 20 minutes in, I'm like, I'm bored. I'm not vibing with this movie, you know? So I don't want to take that experience to the theater, even if those movies in the theater are maybe having more resources behind it, bigger name directors and actors and stuff. I'm still not wanting to take that risk. Do you relate to that, or do you think anyone else relates to that?
I think there's probably a very considerable percentage of the population that resonates with that. For me personally, I like the experience of the theater. So it's kind of like if you just love playing a sport. If I love playing football so much that when I go out on the field, win or lose, I'm going to have a good time, then I'm going to go play. You know, I'm not only going to go play if I'm going to win. So I'll go to the theater just for the experience. Even a movie that I don't think looks the best, but looks better to be seen in theaters than on the TV, I'd still rather go see it and maybe not enjoy the movie the most. But it's all of the culture of it, because I like to go with my fiance. Like, we go on a date, we go there together. I think
that helps a lot.
And we spend however long, 30 minutes, an hour after we leave, talking about the movie. At least we'll walk out to the car and the drive home, we'll talk about the movie. So that to me, like, all of that makes it more enjoyable. She loves popcorn. She's like obsessed with movie theater popcorn. So I think that I just like to go, and I like to watch movies. Even there's a line. I think my line for movies is lower than a lot of people, because I'll watch a movie that I don't like that much just to add it to kind of my library of catalog of movies that I've seen. It has to go so low for me to be like, I have to turn this off.
Which I feel like is opposite of what a lot of people think about your taste in movies.
Yeah. People think I'm super pretentious and only want to watch like art house movies, which is so far from the truth. I mean, I can look up my last 4 watches on Letterboxd and just see how art house.
You like all types of movies.
Yeah, I watched Look Back, My Old Ass, Catch Me If You Can, and American Psycho. So maybe that makes me look a little bit pretentious.
Yeah, I don't think you proved your point there.
But they are across all different genres. I mean, My Old Ass is a comedy. Look Back is animated Japanese movie. Catch Me If You Can. I give Catch Me If You Can 5 stars. These are great 4 movies, by the way. I'm watching peak fiction right now. American Psycho is amazing as well.
I had my last 4 movies are Good Will Hunting, Gladiator 2, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., and The Wild Robot. And then if you go to 5, Elf.
Man, you haven't watched a movie. You've only watched one movie since we watched Gladiator 2?
Yeah.
Because I saw Gladiator 2 with you. And where is Gladiator 2? Since then I've seen Good Will Hunting, Transformers 1, Moana 2, American Psycho, Catch Me If You Can, and My Old Ass and Look Back. So what's that like? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movies in the time that you've watched one movie.
Yeah.
A little bit ahead of you there.
Yeah.
What's your movies watched at for the year?
Why do we have to talk about this
You
right
don't
now?
want to talk about it on air?
Why do we have to? Why do we have to go over
Sierra's
this?
is so much higher than mine. I paid the extra on Letterboxd to do like my account review.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do I even see my total number here?
By the way, these last 4 movies that I watched, original movies. Just saying.
Yeah.
For the concept. None of these were sequels. I mean, American Psycho is based on a novel, still an original movie.
I think I'm at 72 for this year.
At 264.
Yeah.
Sierra's going for 365 for the year. She's getting close.
That's crazy. Let's see. Let's go back to our list here.
I mean, let's talk. One thing I want to talk about looking at the list is how many movies in the top 10 do you think are better movies than some of the original concepts that are below it? Because personally, Challengers is in my top 3 for the year. It's the one I keep bringing up again and again. And I think Challengers is better than basically every movie in this top 10 besides Dune Part 2. Like, I just watched Moana 2 in theaters the other night.
I think it's better than
not that
Deadpool and
good.
Wolverine and Inside Out 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really
You
like
think-
Challengers.
You
too.
think Deadpool and Wolverine is better than Challengers? They're two weird
In
movies
terms
to
of,
compare
like-
against each other, but
Yeah, in terms of like storytelling, no. In terms of
in terms of
character
camera,
and fun,
in terms of camera work, no. In terms of writing, no.
there was good camera work in Deadpool and Wolverine.
I think that maybe good camera work, but cinematography overall, I think the lighting, I think those elements are better in Challengers. The shot selection.
Challengers was good, very good. I like Challengers. It's probably in my top 3 as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can argue Deadpool and Wolverine's more fun, but I feel like that's just one element of a movie.
I feel like it's a big element of the movie, though, especially for people going to the theaters. I think it might be possibly the biggest.
Probably
it's
a bigger
I think a
element.
lot of people, the majority of people, don't really care, at least consciously, about like cinematography and like all the details that we care about. Like I think the average viewer isn't like, well, the way Challengers was shot was way better than Deadpool and Wolverine. They're like, no, like I saw Deadpool and Wolverine together on screen.
That's why these other movies that perform less at the box office do better on Letterboxd, where the community is more like
Appreciative of how films are made.
yeah. I guess they're more looking at like the art form than less casually viewing.
Right. It's just as like a form of entertainment, but it's a form of art.
Which is obviously nothing wrong with casually viewing. And you have to make in my opinion, I think you should make your movie to please both audiences if you really want to make a good movie.
Yeah.
That's why I think something like Go Will Hunting, Saving Private Ryan, Spielberg really hits the nail on the head with that. He hits a good cross-section between critical appraise and mass audience appraise. Movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jaws.
He might be the best at it, honestly.
Yeah.
Having the critically acclaimed versus the audience approval.
Him,
Because all of his movies are a lot of fun, but they're all really good storytelling. The cinematography is good, the editing, the acting. Like all the elements of the film are just as high as the story of the film.
I think Denis and Chris Nolan get a lot of appreciation from mass audiences as well.
Yes. I do think it kind of leans towards the
Critical side.
The critical side.
Steven Spielberg's probably the most balanced.
Yeah.
Like
Because everyone loves Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
And
it's
Indiana
universal.
Jones and
even
You know,
even a movie like Catch Me If You Can, I feel like is so good from both perspectives.
yeah.
And he's got people working with him like Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
And Tarantino's really good at that too. I think Tarantino has I don't know, maybe he has more audience appeal than critical. I feel like his is pretty even as well.
Yeah.
Because he's gotten some kind of critical people turning their nose up at him too for some of the subject matter and
Yeah, I think his is more on like the stylized storytelling aspect, which might like kind of creep over into the critical side of things a little bit.
But
But
Steven Spielberg definitely hits mass audiences like a truck,
yeah,
Indiana
Like,
Jones is crazy.
he's
big.
like the Christopher Nolan of Michael Bay's. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I got you. I think I can follow that.
If you think about it, it makes
I want to
sense.
see what you just said written down on paper.
I'll make a PowerPoint
That's
for you.
that's perfect on theme for Glicked weekend, just having passed 2 weeks ago.
Um, yeah. What movies do you think like maybe don't deserve to be up here versus on like how good they are and like
Venom: The Last Dance. Haven't seen it. I'll still make that assertion.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
That movie's riding on Spider-Man's coattails crazy hard because I know there is a Venom fan base, but people are. I feel like the 468 million for that movie is probably like, well, this is the
Hey, I
closest thing
saw,
I'll get to a Spider-Man movie this
or
year.
like I saw Spider-Man 3, Venom was in that.
Yeah,
Maybe
with
Spider-Man's
Toby.
in this one.
People hoping
Yeah.
maybe Andrew Garfield will show up in this movie.
Um,
I still would like to see it just to have seen the whole trilogy, and I feel like that's part of it too. That's an element to this sequel's big time as well. Is I watched the first two,
Yeah,
it's
I've already
that
committed.
that kind of attitude. Is got to see where it goes, where it ends.
Yeah.
And Venom: The Last Dance is the end of that trilogy, so you kind of just
So
want
they
to see
say.
how it ends.
Yeah.
I don't
Last
think
Dance.
I don't think Godzilla and Kong particularly deserves to be up here. In my humble opinion,
That's crazy. That's in 5 still.
I
That took Mickey 17 from us. That's a crazy example, right? They took
don't-
they
don't
took
even-
an original movie,
Yeah, they took it off
and
the slate,
pushed it
twice, 3
to
times.
the next year, and then pushed it again and again for this movie, and it seemed like it paid off because I don't think Mickey 17 would have made half of
Really?
that.
No, they need Mickey 17 to make a decent chunk of money, but nothing like that. I don't think it would.
I mean, think maybe 100
Yeah.
million.
Yeah, it'd be lucky to hit 200 million, I think, with the kind
Yeah.
of movie it is. But I think it'll be a potential win for them when it comes to award seasons.
Right?
I think they've pushed it now to April of next year because they originally had it in like January.
Yeah, it's closer to summer now.
A slot opened up in April. Some movie got canceled or pushed, and they slid it forward. But that movie is not very good. It's just like there's a place for like turn your brain off and watch big monsters run into each other. But there's so many other great movies that came out this year that people could have seen instead of that movie. They could have spent their money on instead.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
just my opinion. I'm just one person.
Yeah.
Despicable Me 4 wasn't very good. Honestly, a lot of these movies were not great. Kung Fu Panda 4, I mean, Despicable Me 4 was not great, but it's better than Kung Fu Panda 4. That movie was disappointment.
Do you want to talk about the quality of effort from the studios in making these sequels versus maybe like the quality that needs to go into an original? Because an original, you're constructing everything from scratch, and then it's got to be good enough for people to be encapsulated in this new world, this new environment, these new characters. Is it kind of like, does it feel like, because for me, it feels like studios are almost just copy and pasting things together to get just kind of a slam dunk in the box office, but not necessarily make the best sequel possible, the best movie possible. And it's like we always say, no one goes out to make a bad movie, right? But that's the creator's side. That sometimes the creators there's road bumps in the way, speed bumps, if you will, from the studio and other, kind of outside the creative space interference with the movie. So are they just making bad or are they making worse movies?
Like you said, I don't think they're making worse movies intentionally. I think Tim Burton is a creative genius, and I could only ever hope to reach some small fraction of the genius that he's displayed in his career. So on the one hand, it's who am I to critique him for making Beetlejuice?
You're Andrew from Backseat Director.
But like on the other hand, I think knowing that he's so talented, I think he could have done something more interesting and original instead of Beetlejuice. Granted, like people were very excited. My mother loves Beetlejuice. She was excited to watch the sequel. I like the first Beetlejuice, but like I just don't necessarily see the need for a sequel, and I don't feel like that movie made some big splash or statement that justified making the sequel. And I kind of felt the same thing with Gladiator 2. So I don't know. They've got people like Ridley Scott and Tim Burton remaking these movies. So clearly they see fit to tell some additional story. But Also, hey, if I was them and you told me, hey, remember this world that you created that you probably loved, and you could go back into it and play in that sandbox again and have fun again, and will also pay you millions of dollars to do it, I'd probably say yes as well. But it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that's the best way to make the best product either.
Right. Like, out of these 10 movies, I would say 2 of them don't feel like cash grabs, and the rest do.
Yeah, let's see. Movies that don't feel like cash grabs in this. I mean, in a sense, I'd say all of them are
Sure,
cash
sure,
grab, but maybe
absolutely.
2 of them feel less like it.
2 of them feel like they had a story to tell.
Inside Out 2 definitely had a
Boom.
story to tell.
That was one on my list, and coincidentally, it's made the most this
Yeah.
year at 1.69 billion.
The way they told the first movie, I was begging them for sequels.
Yes.
And I thought it made perfect sense to age the character, and
Yeah.
they did. And so I feel like they told a very necessary story for Riley and
Yeah.
for kids to
Natural
watch and learn
progression.
who are growing with the movie. We
Yes.
talked about that when we did our Inside Out 2 review. And then I think obviously Dune Part 2 as well, I assume is your other one, because
my other one.
the story does continue in the books. And it's so much story, it's hard to fit into one movie.
Right. Yes. It felt like it added what we needed to the first one.
And they made a great movie. Felt
Yes.
very motivated the whole time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I
But
think
the rest feel like the original story didn't need this movie to be here. You know.
I mean, I even feel like Deadpool and Wolverine is kind of motivated, but more motivated by real life factors than like internal story factors.
Yes.
So I feel like it's motivated by give the fans what they want to see Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, and
Sure.
Hugh Jackman, Wolverine on screen. That is a very real emotion. That's not manufactured, you know? So in a sense, I would say that one's even motivated too.
But yes.
But the original
But
story
the
didn't seem to
story
have that
wasn't
intention.
motivated,
Yeah.
I don't think.
I agree
You
with
know?
that. Yeah.
Like they didn't it didn't feel like, especially on a second view, because the first viewing you're in the theater and you're just having a great time.
Sierra's roasting
which is very valuable.
I give it 4 stars, and I haven't changed it, but I give it 4 stars because of that first time theater experience, because of Cavalrine.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
so fun.
Yeah.
You know, and we were talking about the fun aspect of movies earlier. It is important.
but the thing is, you can do both because Dune Part 2 is both. Dune Part 2 I watched in theaters twice, and then each time had this great theater experience, and I believe the story is great as well.
Mhm.
So it is absolutely possible to deliver both.
Yeah. It's tricky balance.
I think
It really
Moana
is.
2 is one of the biggest cash grabs of all of these movies. Despicable Me 4 is a huge cash grab movie. It's just you put these kids' movies out in the second half of the year, and you know they're going to make bank.
Yeah. I mean, there's one Inside Out 2, Despicable Me 4. We have Kung Fu Panda 4, Moana 2. So 4 are all the animated movies.
But that's a basic principle, like you said, of supply and demand. If we're all showing up for billion-dollar returns for Despicable Me every 2 years, they're going to make a Despicable Me every 2 years.
Yeah. What are some movies from
Low.
11 to 20 or so that you would have liked to see higher up on this list that more people should have seen in the theater specifically, not just seen in general?
The biggest 2 that are jumping out to me right now from 11 to 20 are Alien Romulus and The Wild Robot.
Yeah.
Those are 2 of my top 5 favorites of the year so far that I've seen. And The Wild Robot, I think especially should be higher because that's another kids animated movie. Why didn't more people go to see that? It's just because
It's an original concept, right?
Exactly. It's new to them.
So did
That's
they
one of the best examples for this topic.
like why did The Wild Robot not make as much? Because Inside Out made
A $1.6 billion.
Yeah. Well, Inside Out too, but the first Inside Out I think made like 800 and 900
okay.
million. So that's a lot higher than the 300 that this is sitting at. You know, like how do these studios market these ideas to get more people in the seats?
I think people are viewing their pockets as so tight in today's economy. And so if they allocated their 1 or 2 movie theater trips this year to go see Despicable Me 4 and Inside Out 2, then Wild Robot just didn't make the cut because they didn't know for sure that their kids are going to like the story.
Even Transformers 1 is way down here. And when it first came out, I heard a lot of like reviewers and stuff on TikTok talking about how good it is, you know, and it
I
still
would
is
personally
only at
disagree.
130.
I think it kind of feels like a very, it feels like the story feels just very here it is. Like if the story feels like they're just hitting the beats that they're supposed to hit to finish a story. You
Yeah.
know, it didn't feel super original.
Yeah, I think Alien Romulus is my top pick in the 11
Which
to
is
20.
a sequel,
It is. Um,
but it didn't get enough love.
yeah, for sure.
I think
That was a great that's in my top 3
Yeah.
of the year.
if I were to say movies that I think people should have gone to see, as opposed to what is in the top 10, I would say more people should have gone to see Twisters, Alien Romulus, The Wild Robot. A Quiet Place Day 1 is good as well, but there's just not even a lot of on this list to pick from that is original concepts. Like Wicked was great. That's another one that's not really an original concept.
And that will probably go into the top 10.
Yeah, in a couple weeks.
Most definitely. Dude, Moana 2 is crazy.
Oh, The Fall Guys down there at 23. That's an original movie that was fantastic.
Yeah, that movie was a lot of fun, but also good,
Yeah.
you know? Man, Furiosa is way down here, huh?
Look at how many of them are sequels, dude. It's Joker for All You Do, Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, sequels. Furiosa,
Red 1 did
sequel.
pretty decent, I feel like.
It's probably less than they wanted to make. Didn't they spend like 200, 250 making that movie?
Yeah, but that I've heard is because of reshoots and scheduling stuff, not necessarily because that's how much they were going to spend on the movie.
Smile 2, Transformers 1, so many. But then you get down to the 30s and you get some original ideas like Civil War, Long Legs, which are both A24 releases. Actually, I'm pretty sure Long Legs may not be, but I know Civil War is.
And then you have movies like Trap. And Trap is a trap in this conversation that we're having because it's an original movie that the trailer looked phenomenal, but then the word of mouth from people who actually saw it has not been good, from what I've heard. And you've seen the movie.
I didn't like it at all.
Yeah. So, like,
It's one of the worst movies I've seen all year.
God, that's so disappointing, right? Because the trailer was so good. It's an original idea. It's original concept. Like, that movie got me excited, the trailer. And then I heard bad reviews and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna save my money here.
But then look at the substance over here at 45. That's an original idea and concept, and it's one of the highest. It's one of the most popular movies on Letterboxd. So it's one of the most reviewed movies on Letterboxd. But so far down the box office list at 45. Granted, that one's also because of the subject matter. It's more of like a body horror movie, so that kind of gore stuff isn't always everyone's cup of tea.
Right. Yeah. This is a fun topic to talk about. It's hard to balance what to go for.
It's just a very interesting world to look at and compare what movies are going to be in the contention for the Oscars, which are generally considered what are supposed to be by industry professionals the best movies of the year versus what everyone's watching during the year. Because how many of these movies are going to be in contention for awards?
What's more important? The box office, right?
What's more important for what, though?
For the studios, probably the box office. For the individuals, the awards.
I mean, most individuals, it depends on the individual, I'd say. Because definitely you're right for the studios. And then individuals might be like, oh, well, if everyone bought tickets to Godzilla vs. Kong, that probably means I'll like it too. You know, more so than the average individual would say.
Oh, I meant the individuals working on the project.
Working on the project? Don't you think they'd want the box office to be higher too? Especially if they have bonuses tied up in it, you know? Tom Holland got bonus for...
That's what I'm saying. Like, what's
Spider-Man.
the benefit to winning an Oscar? Future work?
Yeah, prestige, acclaim, you know, life accomplishment, bucket list.
Mm-hmm. Because there's no, like, monetary reward, right, for the studio or the people who made the movie or anything, right?
Yeah. I mean, it goes on the resume, and then you can put it on the next movie you're in. It'll say, Oscar-winning director.
Oscar nominated.
Yeah.
Even just being nominated gets you, like, a level of prestige.
Oscar considered.
Yeah. Oscar. That's it.
I thought about the Oscars once.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to talk about these top 10 movies here?
No, I don't think anything's going to change going forward. I think if this indication, this top 10 right here is any kind of, foreshadowing, we're probably just going to get more and more of it because it's, like you said, basic principles of supply and demand. They're going to continue this if this is the results speak for themselves, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
We're in for Beetlejuice, and Alien Remus, and whatever else they can come up with.
What do you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. Or do you go to the theater to watch original movies, or do you save it for the movies that you already are in love with the characters, the sequels, the franchises that are already established? Let us know down in the comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any of our future episodes. We post new full episodes on YouTube, Spotify, every Monday and Thursday. Where else are we, Andrew?
We're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X, anywhere you can find your short form content. We are there posting every day. Make sure to go and check us out on any of your podcast listening platforms, including Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Spotify. Go on there and give us a 5-star rating and review. It helps the show find new listeners. But the best thing you can do in that regard is to share us with friends and family, especially the movie, TV show, and comic book lovers in your life. But if you want to get those people and get a group together and get involved in our community, directly communicate with us, you can join our Discord.
Boom. The Discord's a really cool place to talk about more in depth the episodes that we go over. We take episode suggestions in there. We go over different rankings lists and polls and debates. And then also some of our members are sharing their own original content that they're creating, which is really cool. So if you want to join that, click on the link in the description of this video. Andrew, tell the people how much it costs.
It is absolutely free.
Yeah, just click on the link and you can join in on the conversation on a deeper level with the Backseat Directing boys.
Yeah, we got other friends of the shows in there. You may have already said that, but it's a lot of fun in there. I mean, the polls have been a good time, and we want to just grow that community and make sure that you have everyone that you know subscribe to our show. We're down bad.
And for anyone, we're not down bad. We just had a decent episode this week come out, but our last 3 before that were a little bit lower than normal, whatever. But we're climbing. We were also just on a one of our friends' podcast.
Oh yeah,
episodes.
check it out. 25-Cent Film with McNeil, the most recent episode starring Andrew and Arron, the Backseat Directing boys.
He's been on our show twice now, I believe.
Yeah.
We were on his episode. We talked about the 2022 movie release year. We did a draft, and it was a lot of fun, so be sure to check that out.
It was a great episode. I felt like my energy was so high. I was like, where did my energy go? I just don't have any. I don't have any energy anymore.
It's because that episode was recorded 6 months ago, and it's finally out.
Slowly crumbling since then.
That's right. Yeah, so be sure to check his episode out. Click on the link in the description below for the Discord as well. Thanks so much for watching, and
that's a wrap.